the Red Pill Retirement Podcast, where we give you the raw, unfiltered truth about retirement planning in the modern age. Pensions and 401ks are quickly becoming a thing of the past, so we're here to share resources and recommendations that will help you create the retirement lifestyle you've always dreamed of. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, we're here to help. Let's get started.
I'm your host, Ryan Cowden, and this week we're joined by Ian Bond from RedPillRetirement.com. In this episode of the Red Pill Retirement Podcast, Ian and I discuss the debate between building or buying online websites. One of the early, major decisions you will make in your foray into online web investment is whether you should purchase an already existing platform or build one yourself. This is an important decision that will affect your time, resources, and strategy as you build your online business. While this is a valid question, there is strong evidence to suggest that buying an established website is the more attractive option here. In this episode, Ian weighs the pros and cons and makes his case for why you should focus your activity on established online properties. In this episode, you'll hear Ian defend his conclusion that established websites are the more attractive investment, specific benefits that established websites offer, and lessons from Ian's first website purchase. If you're weighing the decision of what type of website to invest in, this episode is one you won't want to miss. There's a lot of actionable advice in this episode, so grab something to write with because you're going to want to take notes. As always, I'll be back on the other side to wrap up any loose ends. So, without any further ado, here's my conversation with Ian Bond. All right, Ian, welcome back to the show. How you doing, man?
Ryan, never better. We've gotten through, kind of the wild and crazy, Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving shopping holidays. And we're coming into the home stretch to end up 2018. And so, as I've said before, I love finishing strong because that's how you start strong for the next year. Okay. We call this the ruling season.
Really?
Because how we finish is going to rule how we are able to behave next year. So
okay,
this sets the rules. All right.
Right. That's great. Well, we're talking about something that I know you're passionate about today. We're talking about how to build profitable websites, and we're kind of raising the question of should you build that website or should you look to buy it from someone else?
And the answer is yes. Okay. So we can dive into that. And I have, as you know, a fairly strong view on this.
Okay. Well, let's jump right in. So, what is your recommendation between building or buying a website?
Sure. So we wrote a blog piece back when we launched the site about lessons I've learned in website investing and why I feel that investing in websites is the most promising asset class. Websites are the most promising asset class that you can invest in, and I do this with over 36 years of experience in investing in all kinds of asset classes. So I would point anybody who wants kind of an institutional analytics to just take a look at that. Drop me a line, and I'd be happy to defend that because I interview asset managers on a daily basis in my day job. And so, I have a very strong view on it. But the reason I became compelled is that I saw this incredible opportunity in this asset class. And, I'm not a genius. I know that 90% of all small businesses fail in the first 5 years. And of the ones that survive, 90% of those fail in the next 5 years. And those are brick and mortar businesses, probably higher in website investing. So that's number one. I didn't think I'd be the one to probably, find one of the 10% that would create one of the ones that would survive the first 5 years. I didn't think I'd be that lucky. And number two, I was already in my mid to late 50s, and I don't have the time or the inclination to do that. And so coupling that age factor with the statistics that so many fail, such a huge percentage fail, buy a profitable one on the cheap, and then operate it. Don't spend the time. The question, Ryan, comes down to, do you have more time or do you have more money? And when you have something as cheap in the marketplace as websites, it really tilts in favor of buying rather than creating or building.
Okay. Yeah. Because the point of all of this is to make money, right?
It's absolutely, it's absolutely the case. Making money is why we're here.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of online businesses start off. People try to start blogs or things like that. Is that a good class to invest in, or
it's horrible? Okay. All right. So anybody listening to this, if someone is preaching to you to start a blog to finance your retirement, immediately unsubscribe. That's the worst advice on the internet. You will be eating cat food in your old age. You'll be a greeter at Sam's or Walmart. Not that that's a horrible thing. That was something my dad always wanted to do. But he was
really?
who liked to talk. But there are more blogs on Earth than we need, and they're proliferating like every day. It's a horrible notion that you can start a blog and monetize it as your way to fund a retirement or to fund anything meaningful. Now, it is not a horrible idea if you want to do this, start a blog to enhance your professional career. It's not a horrible idea if it's something that you want to do because you're passionate about it and you really like it. You want to contribute to a community of people, or maybe develop a community of people. It's not a bad idea if you want to do it as an accountability thread. Hold yourself accountable to something. I'm following a guy that I've known that's in the Philippines who's lost over half of his body weight. I started following him because it's called 432 Fit, and it's the number 430 TOFIT. And his name is Bob Phillips, and he's lost over half of his body weight. I started following him because he commented about life in Davao City in the Philippines, and he had a health scare. Now, so he's taken 432 Fit and chronicled his own journey to becoming fit after several health scares. It's marvelous reading. Is he going to make a fortune out of it? No, but he has a number of supporters helping him along the way. And he has a bunch of people that he's helping, and he's getting a lot out of it. I think that's great. I think enhancing your professional career is great. I think, there's a number of good reasons, but it will not fund your retirement. So it's horrible advice to start a blog to fund your retirement.
Okay.
So, was that too mamby-pamby?
Oh, no, that's good. That's good advice, because I feel like you're always looking at new blogs popping up and advice on
By the way,
your blog, how to get followers.
If you're going to do this, please use our Bluehost affiliate link so that we can make millions of dollars off of people that are going to do that, please. And we have one. Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody does.
So for people looking to jump into the website world, I feel like one of the first decisions you have to make is, are you going to design this website yourself, or are you going to hire someone to build it for you or purchase one? What's your kind of recommendation on that?
Okay. Well, so let's go down the path for a career professional or someone who's contemplating retirement. Again, it comes down to time or money. Most things you can, particularly in the website world, whether you're creating or whether you're just operating one, most things you can outsource relatively cheaply. We advocate staying on all of the standard platforms. If you're going to be blogging because of the reasons I just suggested, or if you're going to do e-commerce, which is what we do, the standardized platforms, you can get tons of help. So, why would you spend time doing that when you can spend your time creating useful content that, you have the years of experience to share with the world? Why would you go and learn how to upload products on Shopify or do the latest, greatest thing on WordPress? I don't see any point in it, but there's some people that geek out about that stuff. I don't.
Okay. So let's dig into some of the main reasons why. I just want to get more in depth on why existing websites are good for someone to buy. And one of the points that you raised in one of your articles was established websites already have a built-in audience.
Look,
a bit more about that.
Look, if you are going to start a website, you're going to toil away And look, there's lots of great advice out there that says, on, how to pick a niche and, check out your competitors and, emulate the good things and find your voice and take a controversial opinion in, relative to the crowd that's out there. You're still going to have to figure out how to drive traffic to your site. And, whether that's e-commerce, or whether that's a blog. And the reality is that if you have already been able to find a site that has traffic coming to it for whatever reason, either it's organic traffic, and we'll go through organic traffic strategies and paid traffic strategies in a whole different episode. But if you can capitalize on either organic or paid traffic, and there's a way to drive profitable traffic to a website, you're gold. Okay. Now, if you could spend years trying to develop that on your own. I don't advocate that. I advocate buying one where somebody's already cracked that code. It's just that simple. It's it's incredibly hard. It's a bottomless pit of money. Using Google and Facebook can cost you a fortune. Just learning how to use Google and Facebook is painful. Outsourcing it is incredibly painful, and expensive. For Lord's sake, take the easier route. Find a website that fits your criteria and capitalize on the fact that these things are cheap now and they won't stay this cheap. Because, Ryan, as I pointed out in the article, a lot of websites yield 2% or to 3% per month of what you paid for them. So if you paid $25,000 for a website or $50,000, that means that on a monthly basis, you can see profits of $500 to $1,000 on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. So, those are cheap numbers. 2% per month in an era where savings accounts are 2% per year is really, worth your time to learn how to kind of organize people that can work for you and start your empire of buying websites. Right. I think.
Right.
It's just one man's opinion. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So on a practical level, once you buy that website, are you just kind of the owner and you're letting the people still run that website, or are you becoming hands-on control guiding the website?
Yeah, great question. I think it behooves you at the beginning to get in and break down the activity chain of things that need to be done and figure out where you can add value. This is going to harken back to a comment I just made that we probably shouldn't do this in this in this particular episode. Okay. But let's just take e-commerce for example. Okay. I think that there are three principal activities in e-commerce that you have to solve for. Number one, you have to have supplier relations. Okay. Number two, you have your website stuff that you've got to deal with, and number three, you've got your customer service piece. Okay. Okay. And so now you have to figure out how you're going to do those things, what you like to do versus what you don't like to do, what you're able to do. So we live 9 time zones ahead of the East Coast of the United States, and we sleep while customers shop. So clearly we outsource our customer service, and we have all kinds of standard operating procedures and in place for our team. And we even have somebody checking our team so that when we wake up in the morning, we have a person who's a COO type that is checking to make sure that the orders that came in were entered correctly and sent to the suppliers correctly, that there was no slip between the lip and the cup there. So there's all kinds of ways to break it down, or there's all different ways to do it. The beautiful thing, obviously, and we point this out in the article that I mentioned, is that this business can be done from anywhere, and we have done it from anywhere. We've done it from vacations. My wife has traveled on personal business or family business. Her team has no idea, nor do our suppliers have any idea where we're at. And on any given day, all you need is an internet connection and your phone or your laptop. My wife right now is at my son's hockey practice, working on the business, because when she gets home, the United States will be opening for business, and she wants to spend time with the family, and she can monitor the early hours in the United States, but she's working on stuff that that she has kind of queued up to do or she's organized her work life around her real life.
Okay, great.
Makes sense?
Yeah, it does. You made a comment a couple minutes ago that that people should get in now while it's not super expensive, and that it might be more expensive down the road. What did you mean by that?
Well, this is an emerging asset class. Okay, so my investing career goes back to 1980, and I can remember when over-the-counter stocks, which are now known as the NASDAQ stocks, traded at ridiculously cheap prices, and huge spreads between the bid and the offer. And small cap stocks were incredibly powerful performers. They also had higher failure rates because they were smaller companies. They weren't the blue chips. And I've spent my whole career looking at kind of the next frontier in investing, where there's a poorly organized information, where there's great fundamentals, where a little bit of homework on your own, and you can make outsized returns. That's what this asset class represents in 2018, 2019 today. That maybe the NASDAQ represented back in the 80s.
Okay, so I guess the wider culture isn't yet fully aware of this opportunity. No,
and it's because as I mentioned, this asset class has not yet really come of age. The information is poorly organized. It's incredibly frustrating to get a hold of good information. Yeah. It's a nascent industry that's really blown up in the last decade. Okay, so think of 2008, as being the beginning of. There's stuff before that for sure, and you'll hear old timers talk about how they made $1 million back in the days of dial-up before Y2K. But the reality is that this industry has kind of blown up since the financial crisis. Yeah. Heck, most of the website brokers weren't around during the financial crisis. The ones that I talk about too, and for sure, below $10 million, you don't have any institutional money coming into the asset class that jacks up the prices, that raises the prices. And so you still have an opportunity to go in and buy things at really cheap levels. By the way, brick and mortar small businesses trade really cheaply too. It's just that I don't have any interest in owning, some kind of a franchise or something that's a brick and mortar business. Generally, I don't have an interest because I think the trend is to go to e-commerce in most industries I look at. They're the bigger opportunities in e-commerce, and so I look at that as being just a better way to participate in kind of small business. To be honest with you,
okay. It seems like also the flip side of this being kind of an established industry for 10 years means it's probably easier for people to jump in.
I think now it is for sure. Yeah. I mean, I can just tell you I've been looking at the website business now. It is close to 5 years, and it's changed an enormous amount. It's become much more professional. You have seen valuations in different classes of websites creep up a bit. You've seen the technology change dramatically. It's just easier to operate these things than it's ever been. And as I told you before, when I was first investing, going back, when I was 58 years old already, my biggest fear was the tech fear. Could I actually do this? Or am I just going to lose all my money, on day one? Yeah. And so essentially, in the article that you referenced, the 5 lessons we learned that I learned investing in websites, I shamed myself into buying our first website because I had literally put down deposits on 53 websites. I was at the point where I knew that I wanted to invest, and I knew what type of website I wanted to buy. And I had put deposits on 53 things that fit the category, but I didn't pull the trigger on any. And finally, I found one for $17,000, and I put the money down. And then 2 weeks later, I pulled the deposit back. And a few weeks later, I just said, you know what? If I don't do this, first of all, $17,000 was only a fraction of what I had allocated. I looked at it as a university education and, kind of University of the Internet and my tuition. And I was sure that on this website, which was an 8-year-old website, I wasn't going to lose all my money. And my wife and I would figure it out. And, lo and behold, I have incredibly fond memories of that. But I had to shame myself into doing it. I literally put money down on that one, took it back, and then bought it a month later. Yeah.
If you could go back now and tell yourself right before you pulled the trigger a piece of advice, what would you tell yourself?
I should have gotten better advice from someone who would have instilled more confidence in me and helped me, kind of get to the point where I felt comfortable. To be honest with you, I think the single biggest question that I get from people that read the blog is how will I know when the time is right? How will I know when I'm ready? And the best answer, whether that's taking swimming lessons or riding a bicycle or buying a website, is get help, get competent help. And for anything out there, you have to find someone who you're like-minded with, who gets you and is not going to push you to do something you don't feel comfortable doing, but will reason with you and will hold you accountable too.
Right.
So I had, that's what I needed. And, I kind of solved for it in my own head and in my bedroom, which we're recording from right now. And my wife and family were not here yet. All I did was talk to myself all day, every day about it. It was horrible. It was a horrible conversation I had.
Yeah. So it sounds like it was a scary experience to take that first.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I was talking to these website brokers, and it was like the panel van rolling up to the elementary school, right? And the door opens, and they're trying to sell you something that you shouldn't be buying, right? Yeah. And you just feel like, oh my, it's the old adage that if you're at a poker table and you don't know who the sucker is, well, clearly I didn't know who the sucker was. Okay. I mean, at least I felt like it. But the reality is that after putting deposits down on 53 websites, I knew as much as I was ever going to know, except for really, diving in and doing it.
Yeah. So you kind of got to that point where you realized there's nothing more I can learn without doing it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the realization, and you have to push yourself and do it. And that's 100% the case. Yeah.
Okay. And it was a positive experience. You stuck with it. And
well, positive, a month later we bought website number 2. So it was so good. It was so good that, we bought website number 2, and then we managed these 2 animals. And I started fooling around buying some smaller ones, on one of the exchanges. And even those would have been, if I'd have focused my time better, could have paid off well. But, as we've chronicled before, website number 2 did really, really well and was in a much bigger niche. And so it had great opportunities. So we spent more time. Website number 1 was a purchase that was designed to minimize risk and be a proof of concept. Website number 2, I said to myself, hey, I want to be able to kind of, let's, for lack of a better phrase, roll the dice and attack a bigger niche where if I get it right, I can make a lot more money. So I targeted a bigger niche. Website number 1 served its purpose wonderfully well. It was my tuition for the University of the Internet. It continues to produce to this day. It just pales in comparison to what number 2 has been able to scale to, because we got quite lucky, which I've written about also. And so, number 1, allowed us to have the confidence to do number 2. So, after 53 deposits, we finally got there,
Okay. Great. Well, I think, Ian, you made your case. I think you gave us a lot of good advice to get started. So thanks.
Well, I hope I've disabused at least one person of thinking that they can start a blog to fund their retirement. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And I would certainly hope that people would take the, kind of look, if you walk away from this with one thing, I look at investing from an institutional perspective in my day job. I can tell you that investing in websites are an incredibly cheap asset class. Yes, you have to work on a website, which is, to me, it's a great opportunity if you bring, the skills of anybody that's, been any kind of professional skills, even, any life skills, and then you bring that to it. And then you've got this enormous pool of outsourced workers that we all access on a daily basis. And learning how to utilize that to your advantage makes it just the opportunity of what I call the opportunity of a lifetime. I've written about that too. So I think it's the opportunity of a lifetime. Write that down. And if anyone should, have a question, please leave a comment, email me. Would love to help someone.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ian. We'll catch you next time.
Okay, Ryan. Great talking to you.
Thanks. All right, folks, there you have it. That wraps up my conversation with Ian Bond of the Red Pill Retirement Podcast. He shared a ton of valuable insights and advice today on the debate over buying and building online websites. As always, we'll link up any tools or resources we discussed in the show notes at redpillretirement.com. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and consider subscribing, sharing with a friend, or leaving us a review in your favorite podcast directory. Until next time, best of luck in all that you do, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Red Pill Retirement Podcast.